Princess Lyra stood in the center of the Crystal Palace's grand hall. The walls around her glowed with soft blue light from ancient stones. Her skin had a faint purple tint, and her eyes were large and dark, reflecting centuries of her species' pain. The empire was dying. Their numbers fell every year. Their young were born sick. Their scientists said the answer was genetic mixing with a strong species. They had chosen humans from Earth. Lyra wore a white ceremonial dress that covered her entire body. The fabric was thin and moved like water. She did not want to be here. She did not want this marriage. The council had chosen a human warrior for her without asking what she wanted. They said the human would be strong and would give her children who could survive. They said love would come later if it came at all. The hall was filling with nobles and human diplomats. They came to see the ceremony that would unite two species. They came to celebrate what the council called the salvation of the people. Lyra knew better. She knew this was about politics and biology, nothing more. The human commander arrived on a shuttle from Earth. His name was Price. Lyra read his file 3 times. She studied his face in the photographs. He was tall and strong. His eyes were bright blue. He had survived 17 combat missions. He had no family left alive. The council said he was perfect. He had nothing to lose if the marriage failed. The doors of the grand hall opened. Price walked through them. Lyra's breath caught in her chest. She knew this face. She had seen it before, not in photographs, in person, in darkness and blood and fear. 3 years ago, Lyra had been captured by rogue soldiers who wanted to overthrow the council. They held her in an underground facility beneath the ice plains. They said they would use her as a hostage to gain power. For 6 days, she sat in a cold cell with nothing but water and stale food. Then everything changed. A human soldier came to the facility. He did not come with an army. He came alone. Later, she would learn that he had snuck away from his unit, breaking orders to answer an emergency signal from a female he had met only once before. He had chosen to help her. He cut through the locks on her cell using human technology that burned hot and bright. He lifted her when she was too weak to walk. He carried her through dark tunnels while her captors hunted them. He did not ask for payment. He did not ask for rewards. He simply carried her to safety because she was hurt and because he could not leave her behind. That human had been Price. For 3 nights, while they hid in the mountains waiting for rescue, had cared for her wounds. He had given her his jacket when she was cold. He had stayed awake to watch for danger while she slept. He had spoken to her about Earth and about his family who had died in a war. He had told her that all life was precious and that no one should suffer alone. When rescue came, they were separated. Lyra returned to the palace, returned to his unit. She thought she would never see him again. She thought that time and distance would make her forget him, but she had not forgotten. Every day for 3 years, she had looked at a small portrait she kept hidden in her private chambers. It was a photograph of his face. Now he stood before her in the grand hall. His eyes found hers across the space between them. Recognition flashed in his blue eyes. His face changed. For just a moment he looked shocked. Then he looked afraid. Then he looked like he had seen a ghost come back to life. The council members noticed nothing. They were busy talking about the political importance of the union. The human diplomats noticed nothing. They were focused on the genetic potential of the marriage, but Lyra and could not look away from each other. The council leader stood forward. She was old, with skin that was paper-thin and almost translucent. Her name was Counselor. She had governed for 40 years. She believed that emotions were weakness and that logic was the only path to survival. Counselor began to speak the words of the marriage agreement. She said that this union was binding. She said that Price would carry genetic material forward through children. She said that in return, Earth would receive trade agreements and advanced technology. She said that this was the future of both species. Lyra heard none of it. She watched. His jaw was tight. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides. She could see the muscles in his neck move as he swallowed hard. He was feeling the same shock that she was feeling. He had not expected to see her. He had not known that this marriage was with her. When Counselor finished speaking, was asked to step forward, he moved across the hall toward Lyra. With every step, his expression became more controlled. He was a soldier. He knew how to hide what he was feeling, but his eyes never left hers. He came to stand before her. Counselor asked him to accept the marriage, said the words that were required. His voice was steady and calm, but Lyra could see his hands shaking slightly. Then Lyra was asked to accept. She looked at this man who had saved her life when she meant nothing to him. She looked at this man who had shown her what human kindness really meant. She looked at this man and realized that somewhere in the last 3 years, he had become something more to her than just a memory. She said yes. The council declared the marriage valid. The human diplomats began to celebrate. Music filled the hall. But Lyra and stood together, their fingers almost touching, both of them shaking with emotion that neither of them could explain to anyone else in the room. As the celebration moved around them, leaned close to Lyra. His voice was so quiet that only she could hear him. He said her name like a prayer. He said it like he could not believe she was real. Lyra realized in that moment that fate was strange and powerful. Her husband was already her husband. He had been hers since the day he carried her through the darkness to safety. And somehow, against all odds, the council had given him back to her. The night after the marriage ceremony, Lyra could not sleep. She lay in her royal chamber with the walls glowing softly, and she thought about what it meant that he was here. She thought about what would happen if anyone learned the truth about their past. The palace was quiet. The celebration had ended hours before. The human diplomats had returned to their quarters. The council members had dispersed to their homes in the capital city. Now only guards stood in the corridors, and they were trained not to notice what they did not need to notice. Lyra rose from her bed and wrapped a dark robe around herself. She knew where had been given a room. It was near the royal quarters, as was proper for a new husband. She moved silently through the palace corridors. She knew every passage and every hidden corner. She had grown up running through these halls as a child before duty had taught her to walk with perfect posture and show no feeling. Was awake. He opened his door before she could knock. He must have been listening for her. He pulled her inside quickly and shut the door behind them. For a long moment they just looked at each other, then reached out and touched her face like he was checking to see if she was real. His hand was warm. His thumb moved across her cheek gently. He said her name again. She said his name. Then they came together, and his arms held her like he was afraid she would disappear. Lyra pressed her forehead against his chest. She could hear his heart beating fast and strong. She could feel him breathing. He was real. This was real. Held her and said that he had thought about her every single day for 3 years. He said that, when his commanders told him about the marriage arrangement, he had known immediately it had to be her. He said that he had volunteers for this mission so many times that the Earth government had finally assigned him. He said that he never thought it would work. He never thought they would see each other again. Lyra told him that she had kept his photograph. She told him that she had hidden it in a private place where no one would find it. She told him that sometimes she looked at it and wondered what would have happened if they had met under different circumstances. She said that she had thought love was a luxury that they could not afford, but he had taught her something different in those 3 nights in the mountains. Said that on Earth, love was not a luxury. It was the reason people survived. It was what made life worth living. He said that humans did not see relationships as contracts or political agreements. He said that when a human loved someone, they loved them completely. They loved them through danger and loss and pain. He sat down on the edge of his bed and pulled Lyra close to him. She sat between his legs with her back against his chest. He wrapped his arms around her and held her like he was protecting her from the universe. Told her about his life on Earth. He told her about his mother who had died when he was young. He told her about his brother who had been a soldier like him. He told her that his brother had died in a war that was fought over resources and land and pride. He said that was when he had learned that war was a waste. He said that was when he had decided that building peace was more important than building weapons. Lyra asked him why he had come to her cell that day. She asked him why he had risked his life for someone he had met only once before, was quiet for a long moment. He said that sometimes you meet someone and you know that they matter. He said that some people have a light inside them that is worth saving. He said that Lyra had that light. He said that when he heard that she had been taken, he could not do anything but try to save her. Lyra turned to face him. His blue eyes were bright with unshed tears. She kissed him, and he kissed her back like he had been waiting 3 years to do this. When they finally pulled apart, she told him that she was afraid. She said that the council did not approve of emotion. She said that if they learned that she and had met before, they might see it as a conspiracy. They might separate them. They might decide that the marriage could not produce reliable offspring if both parties had personal feelings involved. Said that the council could not separate them. He said that law was clear about marriage bonds. Once the union was declared, only death or extreme betrayal could break it. He said that their love for each other was not betrayal. It was the strongest reason for the marriage to succeed. But Lyra shook her head. She said that the government did not think like that. She said that they viewed emotions as variables that could not be controlled. She said that they would rather have a cold partnership that produced strong children than a passionate union that might create complications. Held her closer and said that they would be careful. He said that they would keep their love private until they had established a routine. He said that once she was pregnant, and once it was clear that the marriage was producing results, the council would be less interested in monitoring their relationship. Lyra wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that they could have both the appearance of duty and the reality of love. She wanted to believe that they had been given a second chance by fate. As the night hours passed and Lyra talked about everything, they talked about their fears and their hopes. They talked about the future they wanted to build together. They talked about what it would mean to have children who were both human and they talked about the possibility of real peace between their two species. When dawn began to lighten the sky outside's window, Lyra knew she had to leave. The palace staff would be waking soon. She needed to return to her own chambers before anyone noticed she was missing. Walked her to the door. He kissed her forehead and said that he loved her. It was the first time he had said it directly. Lyra touched his face and said that she loved him too. She stepped out into the corridor and moved silently back toward her room. But her mind was not on stealth or caution. She was thinking about words about love. She was thinking about the future. She was thinking about how to protect the one thing that mattered more to her than duty or politics or the survival of her species. She was thinking about how to keep safe. She did not know that someone had seen her leave his room. She did not know that her secret was already beginning to unravel. Lord had worked in the Crystal Palace for 30 years. He served as an advisor to the council. He was thin and cold with eyes that missed nothing. He had seen Lyra leave's room at dawn. He had noted the time and the way she moved. He had seen the disheveled state of her robe. He had heard the low voice of the human inside the room before the door closed. Lord did not believe in coincidence. He believed in patterns and in duty. He believed that the government had made a mistake by trusting a human so completely. He believed that humans were animals in nice clothing. They had emotions that could not be controlled. They had loyalties that switched direction like the wind. And now, he was certain, the human had already begun to corrupt the princess with seduction and deception. That morning requested a private meeting with Counselor. She received him in her private office in the highest tower of the palace. The room was sparse and cold. There were no decorations. There were no comfortable chairs. Counselor believed that comfort was a weakness. Explained what he had observed. He said that the princess had spent the night in the human commander's room. He said that this was highly irregular for someone who had married for political reasons only 20 hours before the event. He said that it was possible the human had seduced the princess with false promises of love. He said that this could mean the human was part of a larger conspiracy to infiltrate and weaken the leadership through personal influence. Counselor listened without expression. When finished, she was silent for a long moment. Then she said that this was a serious allegation. She said that if a human soldier was compromising the royal bloodline, the entire peace agreement would be questioned. She said that Earth had signed contracts. If the human had deceived them, those contracts could be voided. She ordered an immediate investigation. By noon that day, Lyra was summoned to the council chamber. She walked through the palace knowing something was wrong. The guards looked at her with different expressions. The servants would not meet her eyes. The whispers stopped when she passed. The council chamber was a circular room with 9 seats arranged in a ring. 8 nobles sat in 8 of those seats. The 9th seat was empty because the 9th council member had died 2 years before and had not been replaced. Counselor sat in the highest position, looking down at Lyra. They accused her of betraying the interests of the people by becoming emotionally involved with the human. They said that emotional entanglement would compromise the logical thinking required to produce viable offspring. They said that the marriage might be declared invalid if she had acted with deception. Lyra felt fear move through her body like ice. She understood what they were really saying. They were saying that if she had lied about her intentions, they could annul the marriage. They could send away. They could decide that the experiment with human genetics was too dangerous. She made a choice in that moment. She could lie and deny everything. She could claim that had seen something innocent and had misinterpreted it. She could protect herself and protect by pretending that this marriage was exactly what it appeared to be, a cold political agreement. Instead, she told the truth. Lyra said that she had met 3 years ago. She said that he had saved her life when she was captured. She said that they had developed feelings for each other at that time. She said that when the council assigned as her husband, neither of them had known it would happen. She said that they had been surprised and shocked to see each other again. She said that she did not regret it. The council members shifted in their seats. Counselor leaned forward slightly. She asked if the princess understood that emotions made people unreliable. She asked if Lyra knew that the entire peace agreement could be questioned if her motivations were not purely focused on the genetic mission. Lyra stood straight and said yes, she understood. She said that she understood that her species was dying. She said that she understood the genetic mixing was important, but she said that love was not a weakness. She said that on Earth, humans created their strongest bonds through love. She said that a child born from love had better chances of survival than a child born from obligation. She said that her love made her more committed to this marriage, not less. She said that had proven his character by saving her without any guarantee of reward. She said that his intentions were honorable and that her intentions were also honorable. She said that the combination of duty and love would create the strongest possible foundation for their children. Some of the council members looked unconvinced. One of them, a woman named Counselor, nodded slowly. She had lost a daughter in childbirth 5 years before. She understood something about the connection between a parent's will to protect and a child's ability to survive. Counselor said that this was acceptable only if the human was completely loyal to the interests. She said that they would bring the commander to the council chamber immediately. She said that they would question him under truth serum to verify his claims about saving Lyra and about his intentions toward the people. Truth serum was dangerous. It could damage the human brain. Lyra said this could not happen. She said that a human had the right to refuse chemical interrogation. She said that using it would violate the peace agreement between their peoples. Counselor smiled coldly. She said that Lyra was right, but she said that if refused the truth serum, the council would conclude that he was hiding something. She said that in that case, they would have no choice but to end the marriage and send him back to Earth in chains, accused of conspiracy and deception. Lyra felt trapped. She realized that the council had already decided. No matter what she or said, they would find him guilty, unless she could give them something else to believe in. She asked for permission to bring her husband before the council. She said that could defend himself. She said that his words and his character would prove his loyalty better than any chemical interrogation. Counselor agreed. She ordered the guards to fetch the human commander. Lyra waited in the council chamber and prayed to the old gods of the that would understand what she had done. She had revealed their secret. She had forced his hand. And now, everything depended on whether the council would believe that human love could be as strong and as true as duty. Was brought to the council chamber by guards. He walked in with his shoulders back and his head high. He was a soldier. He had been trained to face interrogation and judgment. But when he saw Lyra sitting in the chamber with the council members arranged in a circle above her, he understood that this was different. Lyra had told them everything. Counselor stood and explained the situation too. She said that the princess had confessed to knowing him before the marriage. She said that the council questioned whether a human could truly be loyal to the people if he was emotionally involved with the princess. She said that many people would see emotional involvement as a weakness that could be exploited. Listened, and then he asked permission to speak. Counselor granted it. Began by telling the story of how he had met Lyra. He described the facility where she was being held. He described the rebels who wanted to overthrow the government. He explained that when he heard that a princess had been captured, he had known immediately that he had to do something. He said that the command structure had told him to stay in his unit. They had said that internal politics were not his concern. They had said that rescuing a princess could start a war, but said that he could not obey those orders. He said that when he thought about Lyra suffering in a cold cell, he could not do anything except try to save her. He described finding her in the darkness. He described how thin she was, how scared she was, how brave she was even though she was terrified. He said that in those moments she was not a princess or a political tool. She was a person who was suffering. And on Earth, humans are taught from childhood that you help people who are suffering. He said that it did not matter that she was. It did not matter that helping her was against orders. It did not matter that it was dangerous. What mattered was that she needed help, and he could give it. Walked closer to the council seats and looked directly at Counselor. He said that this was the difference between human thinking and thinking. He said that humans understood that logic and duty were important, but humans also understood that compassion was more important. He said that the species was dying because they had forgotten how to love each other. He said that they had built a civilization on logic and control, but they had lost the emotional connection that made people want to survive. He said that families did not talk about love. Couples did not care about each other as individuals, and so they were disconnected from the very thing that made life worth continuing. Counselor shifted in her seat. She was listening carefully. Continued. He said that when he found Lyra, he did not know she was a princess. He did not know that saving her might help the peace agreement or benefit Earth in any way. He saved her because she was hurt and because he could not bear the thought of her suffering alone. And then, in those 3 nights in the mountains, something unexpected happened. He and Lyra became connected, not as a human but as 2 people who understood each other on a level that went deeper than species and politics. He said that this was love. He said that love was not weakness. Love was the strongest force in the universe. Love was what made humans willing to die for each other. Love was what made humans capable of forgiving the unforgivable. Love was what made humans see value in life that was worth protecting. Said that he had been told by his government not to expect to see Lyra again. He had accepted that. But when the assignment came for him to marry the princess, his heart had hoped that it might be her. When he walked into the grand hall and saw her face, He knew that fate had given them a second chance. He said that he did not come to them with a conspiracy. He came with a commitment. He came to help them learn what humans already knew. He came to teach them that strength was not just about logic and control. Strength was about love and sacrifice and the willingness to give everything for someone else. One of the council members, a man named Counselor Rax, stood and asked if understood what he was saying. He asked if truly believed that emotion could be the foundation of a stable government and a stable species. Said yes. He said that Earth had been divided and broken for most of its history. Humans had fought terrible wars. Humans had committed terrible crimes. But slowly, humans had learned that civilization worked best when it was built on compassion and respect, and the understanding that every person had value. He said that they had built a civilization on logic and control, and it was dying. He said that the only way they could survive was to relearn how to love each other. He said that it would be painful. He said that it would require changing the culture that had defined them for thousands of years. But he said that it was the only way. Counselor asked directly if he loved the princess. She asked if he would place her above his duty to Earth. Did not hesitate. He said yes. He said that he loved Lyra more than he loved his own life. He said that if the council ordered him to leave, he would spend the rest of his days on Earth knowing that the other half of his soul was on another planet. He said that he would never forgive himself. He said that he would never be whole again. He said that this was not a human weakness. This was human strength. This was what made humans different from machines and logic boards. Humans could feel so deeply that they would sacrifice everything for one person. And that kind of commitment, that kind of devotion, was what built real peace between peoples. The council chamber was silent. Lyra watched and felt tears fall from her eyes. She had not expected him to speak so openly. She had not expected him to declare his love so completely in front of the government. Counselor stood up. She said that she believed the human. She said that she had lost her daughter and that she would have given anything to have one more moment with her. She said that the human understood something that they had forgotten. She called for a vote on whether to recognize the marriage as legitimate and whether to continue the peace agreement with Earth. The vote was 4 in favor of continuing the agreement, 3 opposed and 1 abstaining. The majority had spoken. Counselor accepted the council's decision. She said that the marriage would be recognized as legitimate. She said that the peace agreement would continue. She said that humans would be invited to teach thee about love and compassion. Moved to Lyra immediately. He took her hand and helped her stand. They stood together facing the council, and for the first time in the history of the government, the members of the council stood as a sign of respect to the love that had united 2 species. 3 weeks after the council's decision, Lyra and stood in the grand hall where they had first seen each other as husband and wife. But this time, the ceremony was different. This time, it was not a political agreement. This was a celebration of love. The entire palace was decorated with flowers that bloomed only once every 100 years. The flowers were white and gold, and they gave off a sweet scent that filled the air. The nobility filled the great hall. The human diplomats stood alongside them. Even some of the common people of the capital city were allowed to enter and witness the ceremony. Lyra wore a white dress that had been worn by princesses for 400 years. The dress had been kept in the royal archive and was brought out only for the most important ceremonies. The fabric was so delicate that it seemed to be made of light itself. Her dark hair was braided with gold thread, and on her head sat a crown of ancient crystal that had been passed down through generations. Wore the formal dress of Earth military. His uniform was dark blue with gold insignia on the shoulders. He looked strong and noble, and completely devoted to the woman standing before him. The ceremony began with the ancient words of the people. An old priestess spoke the words that had been spoken for thousands of years. She spoke about duty and legacy and the continuation of the bloodline. But this time, between the old words, New words were woven in. Words about love, words about choice, words about the desire to stand beside someone because of the heart, not because of law. Said his vows first. He spoke slowly so that everyone could understand, even those who did not speak his language well. He said that he came to this union with full knowledge of what it meant. He said that he promised to protect Lyra and her people, not because it was his duty, but because love made protection something he wanted to give. He said that he promised to raise their children to understand both human and culture. He said that he promised to help the people relearn how to feel emotion and express love in healthy ways. He said that he promised to spend his life building bridges between the two species so that they could live together in peace and with mutual respect. He said that Lyra had changed him when he found her in that dark cell 3 years ago. He said that she had taught him what it meant to be brave. He said that she had shown him that courage came from many forms, and that courage was just as real as human courage. He said that he loved her with his whole heart, and that he would love her until the day he died. Then Lyra said her vows. She spoke in her language first, so her people would understand every word. She said that she had been taught that emotion was weakness. She said that she had been taught that duty should come before all other things, but had shown her that this was wrong. She said that she chose, not because the council assigned him to her, but because he was the other half of her soul. She said that she promised to help him navigate culture and politics. She promised to be a bridge between human ways and ways. She said that she promised to raise children who would carry the best parts of both species. She said that she promised to help the people change and grow. She said that she promised to teach them that strength and compassion were not opposites. She said that real strength came from being willing to love in a world that had taught you not to. She said that had given her a gift the day he saved her life. But the greater gift was showing her that love was worth fighting for. She said that she loved him more than she loved the air she breathed. When they finished speaking their vows, they exchanged rings. The rings were made of metal from both Earth and worlds, melted together in such a way that they could not be separated. The metal was silver and gold and blue, all twisted into a pattern that showed the two species becoming one. As placed the ring on Lyra's hand, he leaned down and kissed her. The hall erupted in a sound that had not been heard in society for generations. It was joy. It was genuine joy and hope. The people cheered. The human diplomats cheered. Even the old priestess smiled, which no one had ever seen her do before. The ceremony moved to a great celebration. There was food from both worlds. There was music played on instruments that humans had never heard together before. People danced in ways that mixed human and styles. As the evening deepened and Lyra walked away from the celebration, they moved through the palace corridors to a high balcony that looked out over the city of the stretched below them, with buildings that glowed with soft light. In the distance, they could see the settlements where humans were beginning to live and work alongside the ships from Earth were landing in the spaceport. New people were arriving to help rebuild a species that had been dying. Lyra rested her head on shoulder. She said that she could see the future now. She said that they would survive, not because of genetic mixing alone, but because they would learn to love again. She said that they would learn that emotion was not weakness. She said that they would understand that the only way to truly be strong was to be willing to be vulnerable. Wrapped his arm around her and kissed the top of her head. He said that he believed it too. He said that he had seen the people watching the ceremony. He said that he had seen couples standing close to each other, perhaps for the first time in their lives. He said that change had already begun. He said that he thought about the day he saved her in that dark cell. He said that he had not known that day would change everything. He said that sometimes fate worked in ways that were beyond understanding. Sometimes fate brought two people together across species and worlds and time, just to show them that love was the most powerful force in the universe. Lyra said that she had always known. She said that somehow, deep in her soul, she had always known that her husband was already hers. She said that the day carried her through the darkness. She had known that she would spend the rest of her life with him. They stood together on the balcony as the night deepened. Below them, a new world was being born, a world where humans would learn to live together, a world where love would be taught alongside logic, a world where the two species would become something new and stronger than either could be alone. And in the center of it all, Lyra stood hand in hand, knowing that their love had saved not just themselves, but an entire species. Their love had given the dying a reason to hope. Their love had shown that across any distance, any difference, any obstacle, true connection could find a way to survive. The stars above them shone bright and eternal, and the universe had learned a new lesson about the power of two people choosing each other, again and again, against all odds.